Hey, my friend, it's Randy, Source One Marketing, and your host of Building Wins Live. And can you believe it's Monday? And we're going to do three this week. Three shows this week, partially because I'm out of my mind, but then again, my buddy, pal, friend, and producer director Wes Wyatt already knows that. Anyway, I had so many great guests that I wanted to get on, and we did two last week, Thursday, Friday. Some awesome guests, and got three people this week that I just wanted to get on, and you just need to hear what these people have to say. So we are, and I'm working from home this week, going into about a 6 to 8 weeks of crazy travel coming up, but that's okay because I am hashtag road warrior Randy. So that's what we do, right? So anyways, just want to welcome you and thank you for coming on and building some wins live today with us. Today you're going to love my guest Scott Miller. Scott is an awesome dude. I've got to know him well over the last few months via social media. He's a sales pro like many of us are, and we're just going to have us a 30-40 minute chat about the world of sales and inspiration, motivation, and whatever else Scott has to talk about. So don't go away. We're going to be right back. Boom, here we are, Scott Miller.
Good afternoon.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I could not be better. Could not be better. How's things in Jersey?
You know, it's rainy today. It was supposed to be rain all day, and I woke up this morning. It was snowing, and luckily it did change to rain. So we're good with the rain. So
well, good. So whereabouts in Jersey? I love to say that. I know. Are you near the city or away from the city, or where are you at?
yeah, I'm about 35 miles from Midtown Manhattan. So
oh, nice.
I live
nice.
like in central New Jersey. If you're from New Jersey, everybody in New Jersey tells you they live off an exit. So I live off of exit 9, right? So
okay,
people from the Northeast will know what that means.
I gotcha. Isn't it funny how that works? Because as I think you know, I live in Naples, Florida most of my life, but we go back to Michigan a few months of the year. But in Michigan, we do two things. We hold up our hand and we point to our hand as a mitten, right? Because we're shaped like a mitten. Where do you live? Well, I live up here, but I used to live down here, but I have relatives over here, right? But the other thing we do in Michigan, and I don't know about Jersey or Jersey, but we always talk about in hours, not miles. It's not like, well, it's about 120 miles. No, we say no. We live about an hour and a half, or we live 2.5 miles or 2.5 hours north of. And it's funny how different areas have different ways of talking about things, isn't it?
Yeah. I was actually in Michigan last week,
Oh, were you?
and yeah, I was in. So I was over in Detroit to start off with. Well, Ypsilanti, or however you pronounce it.
Ypsilanti. Do not say Ypsi because they do not like that. I lived in Ann Arbor, a neighboring town.
Yeah, they don't like that. Several people corrected me when I tried to pronounce it right.
You will get that real fast.
and then I was over in Battle Creek. I was visiting some of the cereal people over there on Wednesday, and they were having that big blizzard, right? And so the guy was asking me, where I was staying. I said, "Oh, I'm over in Ypsilanti," and I said, "It's like 120 miles." He goes, "No, it's about an hour and a half or an hour and 20 minutes." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Of course, it was longer that in a snowstorm.
Right. That is so right, because it's funny. Anybody, I have no idea how many miles it is to anywhere in Michigan. I just know how far it is in miles or in time. Right. That's just the way. But hey, Tim Lord, thanks for jumping on, brother. Tim and I are going to maybe hang out a little bit in Tampa, Florida, coming up here shortly in March. But that's a secret. Shh. We don't want to tell anybody yet. Awesome. That'd be a surprise. Last year we did that in Scott. Tim is in our mastermind group with Wes and I, and I drove up to Orlando last year when Tim was there, and we did a live out of the blue to everybody, but to our friends in the mastermind group, and just surprised everybody that we was together. So I guess I shouldn't have said that, because now we can't do it. But they'll forget by then, because
the surprise is over.
The surprise is over, but they'll forget by then. Yeah. So Scott, you're in Jersey, 30 miles from the city. Yeah. Give us the version of Scott Miller. What do you do? What's your gig, buddy?
Yeah, so currently I work for corporation. I work for a vehicle manufacturer. It's a small vehicle manufacturer by way of the industry, I suppose, right? We do about $1 billion a year in revenue, which sounds like a big number, but in the grand scheme of things, compared to Honda or Chevrolet or any of these, the big OEMs for cars, we're a small little niche truck builder.
Gotcha.
But I started off, many years ago, got out of high school. All my friends were going to college. I signed up for college. And I had an opportunity to become a Teamster truck driver, right? And at the time, minimum wage was whatever it was, $2.75 an hour or something like that. And the Teamster job was paying $14.93 an hour, right? So I figured I'm not going to be like these dumb people going to college. I'm going to drive a truck and I'm going to make all this money. Of course, here it is 40 years later, right? And the wages are not much more than $15 an hour now, right? So,
right.
So maybe it was a stroke of luck that I ended up. But anyway, I was driving, and nothing wrong with driving a truck, by the way. But I went from driving that truck, worked for smaller companies mostly in my early days, right? But then I got a job at a very large leasing company, and multi-billion, $5-6 billion a year company, and what had dawned on me is one day I'm driving down the street and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I'm nothing wrong with driving a truck, but I knew that I had a lot more potential than driving a truck every day. Right. So, I quit that job and I went into sales, and I literally almost starved to death. Right. I got into sales. Everybody told me, hey, you're very outgoing. You're an extrovert, you have the gift of gab. You're going to do great in sales. Well, probably the worst thing to have if you want to be successful in sales is the gift of gab. Right? Yes, you want to be able to talk to people. Yes, it helps if you're extroverted and outgoing, but to sit in front of somebody and just blah, 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 throw up on them, so to speak, is definitely not a way. It's not the pathway toward, high success in sales anyway. Right. So I got started in that job. I did very well there. I became a student of the old time sales trainers, the Tom Hopkins, the Zig Ziglars, one of the greats we just lost last week, Bob Proctor, Tony Alessandro, all these, Brian Tracy, all these old, style trainers. And I just immersed myself in training and seminars and books, and dove in it. I wanted to learn the skill of selling versus the gift of a gab, right? And so early on I learned ask a lot of questions, right? Get them to talk. I heard, I forget who it was. Oh, it was Jay Abraham. One time I was listening to one of his marketing programs, and he was telling a story about how he was in Australia, I think it was, and he was at this rooftop hotel, restaurant, bar. And it was, for whatever reason, it was just him and this one other guy. There was hardly any people there. And he sat there and he asked the guy a couple questions, and the guy talked for, I don't know, an hour or 2 hours. And finally they said their goodnights. And before he started walking out of the room, the guy said, hey, I just wanted to stop you and say something. And Jay said, yeah, what is it? And he goes, you're one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. And he hardly said anything, he just asked a lot of questions. He got the conversation going, right? So, I took note of that at the time, and I realized that, and I didn't realize, my whole shtick today is invisible story selling, right? Story selling in a way that's not obvious. Not like the old time, sales trainers that, again, they would teach you, I lived in my 400 square foot bachelor apartment and I washed the dishes in the bathtub. And, most people don't care about you. You know what I mean? Not specifically, but, you or me, but they are more interested in themselves and how can I help them in that regard versus, how great I am or what of the things I've overcome or any of these kinds of things. and I've overcome plenty of things in my life, just like everybody else has, right? We've all had, bumps along the way and, ups and downs in our life, and they all make good stories, but they're really not that relevant to sales. So, I started to put together this concept of learning what people need emotionally from the sale, and then getting them to and telling them a story where in the story they understand how it impacts them directly if they don't buy your product, right? So, I happen to sell a product. I sell a truck. So, and how does that affect them personally? Well, if they don't buy my truck and production goes down at their factory and they can't get product out the door because they can't move trailers around, this guy may be I deal with generally higher level, directors, VPs, C-level executives. If their plant shut down for 6 hours because they didn't have a truck that could do the job, how does that affect them personally? Well, they could lose their job, right? Or, at the end of the year, you have enough times of daily losses of product that didn't get out the door. You've got a big problem on your hands, right? So I started to learn how to tell these stories so that I would get them emotionally involved in the story to the point where, and I've said this I post these videos in my group 3 times a week. And one of the videos I told ideally, not practically, but ideally, if you could get the prospect to cry, feel a very, very deep emotion or laugh hysterically or whatever, then that would be the ideal. That's the ideal scenario, right? That would be Shangri-La in the storytelling, business. So, so I learned how to do these stories, and I got pretty good at sales. The company I'm with today, when I started, we were doing maybe $15 million a year in sales. I head up the sales effort. There's 3 directors inside of my division of the company. And, collectively, the 3 of us have grown that business from about 15 million to we do probably in the 340 range right now, 340 million, something like that. So we've grown it fairly significantly. And it's really a labor of love of telling the story. I was saying to somebody the other day, I'm not a features and benefits person. I don't sit down and go, my truck does this and here's your benefit and it does that. And, nowadays you could put people to sleep very, very quickly doing a presentation like that. Right? You see people looking at their watch, nodding off if it's after, if it's a meeting after lunchtime, a couple of people hit their heads on the table or whatever. Right. So, and so that's kind of how the advent of my invisible story selling goes. Right. So.
Well, that's awesome. And you hit on something a minute ago. I think you said the word emotional, and a lot of people, I think, find that people buy an emotion in certain types of sales, like mom and pop sitting in their dining room table. I have my younger son is an in-home sales guy, metal roofing and that type of thing, roofing in general. We certainly understand the emotional part of that buy, right? My roof's leaking, or I'm going to be in trouble soon. It becomes an emotional decision. But I think a lot of people assume that at the higher level, the higher dollar, the B2B type sales is not emotional. But I tend to believe that it's still based a lot on emotion, right? It's based on you. Or if you're my sales guy, Scott, it really comes down: do I trust you? Do I believe in you? Do I feel that you're going to bring me some value? So it's still emotional that then I back up with maybe some subjective facts and figures to back up the fact that I still bought emotionally. Agree? Disagree? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, even in business to business sales. There's an old adage in all sales, right? Business to consumer or business to business, or consumer to consumer, if you're a one-man show or network marketing type of situation, that people buy emotionally and then they justify it, the sale, their purchase, they justify it logically, right? So they listen to some of the key components you give them logically, but really the thing that they buy on is emotion, right? So, for instance, if you're buying a car, if you go down the whole list, this car goes from 0 to 60 in X, it gets this much gas mileage, it does this, and you only have to get it serviced every 25 years or whatever the thing is, right? People make mental notes of that, right? But then if you can get them to understand that, when you get this, 8-passenger SUV or whatever it is, and you can go hiking and you can take your family to the mountains and just spend this awesome time sitting around, a campfire, and roasting marshmallows, like you used to do when you were a kid, and stargazing, and your wife is loving on you because, she's so happy that the family's having such a nice time. And, if you can get them to feel that, they're buying that car. You know what I mean? And then after they buy it and their friends go, how much did you pay for it? Oh, I paid $60,000 for it. Oh, wow, that's a lot of money. Yeah, but guess what? It gets 80 miles to the gallon. You only have to service it every 25 years. Then they'll go down the things that you mentioned along the way that are irrelevant to the sale. They're not buying the car because of that. They trust me. They're not. It's funny. I had the car before I have now. I had this car that was a car I have now is a performance car, but the one I had before was a performance sedan, right? So it was a 4-door, looked like I called it the old man sedan, but this thing was like a rocket ship, right? And one of my son's friends loved this car, and he was always bugging me, let me take it for a ride and all these kinds of things. And he said to me one day, he goes, I drove around in like the sport mode, the sport plus mode all the time, and he looked at we go in the car and he goes, you're not going to get very good gas mileage, if you drive around in sport plus like that. And I looked at him like, I didn't buy it for the gas mileage.
Right.
I bought it to go from 0 to 60 in, 4.3 seconds. That's what I bought it for. Right. So, so I don't care about that. I might justify that later on to somebody as that's the reason why I bought, in the regular mode, the car gets, 25 miles to the gallon or whatever. Well, the mode I had it in all the time, it got like 9 miles to the gallon. So,
right.
So, that's a good example of where, who cares? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, exactly. You're not buying that sport car, that high performance car for gas mileage, right? You're just not.
No.
So, and that's where a good sales guy selling that high performance car is going to steer away from. His story is going to have very little, if anything, to do with gas mileage, because one, that's a weakness, right? My gas mileage sucks.
Yeah.
But secondarily, if he understands, if you're looking at that kind of car, that's not what Scott Miller or Randy Chafee or Wes Wyatt want, right? That's not what we're looking for with that car.
Exactly
so
right.
It's knowing your customer, knowing what they want, always staying honest, always staying true, but gearing the story right towards what piques their interest. So
and getting people to know the end of the story first and then work backwards from there. So when you talk to somebody in sales, as you're trying to understand how to craft your story for this particular person, what is their goal? You need to get people to share that with you, right? So, when you meet with somebody, and it doesn't matter any kind of, again, C2C, B2C, B2B, what are you looking for? If I'm trying to sell you something, I'm going to say, Randy, what is your expectation? You gave me this meeting today. I'm very appreciative of that. What is your expectation? What is the ideal outcome for you from this? And you may go on this thing about, the features and benefits. Well, I'm looking for a truck that's the lowest cost and I never have to maintain it and it gets the best mileage. And because those are the things that, that's how when people get into buying mode, that's how they get you off your guard, right? That's how they control the sale versus you control the sale. But once you know that end game, now you can craft a story and start asking questions to get them emotionally involved in what is the benefit from them doing business with you, as opposed to what is that end result that you actually talk to them about. So,
that's very, very right on, because I found when I was a young sales guy, 1.5 years ago now, I used to think it was all about how much features and benefits, the dog and pony show, how much I could spew out, and you just sit there and listen to me, Scott, and I'm going to tell you how smart I am for 20 minutes, right? But as I figured out over time, right, they it's their story, not mine, that they're interested in. And the funny thing, and I think you just said it in a roundabout way, is that if we ask the probing questions and then shut up, they'll tell us exactly how to sell them. We don't have to figure out how to sell them if we just keep our mouth shut long enough and listen to their answer, right? They'll tell us exactly what it is that they need to know and then we can just not make up stuff that's not true, but we can tailor the story, right? The invisible story to, well, it's interesting that that's a concern because it just so happens, right? And whatever that so happens is just, but if we just listen, right? And that's a problem. I think a lot of sales guys, when I say probably younger guys, younger as in how long they've been in sales, but I think it's a trap that you got to watch is we all think we need to talk a lot, and we all like to talk a lot. I'm talking a lot right now. We all like to talk if you're in sales, right? But man, the more we just, I hate to say it, be brutally honest, right? But just the more we just shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Kirsten, by the way, just want to shout out to a great fan of the show, Kirsten. Kirsten and I, Scott, it's funny in the world of just life and relationships and sales and everything you do. Kirsten works for a buying group that I am very involved with. A couple of my manufacturers actually going to be in Orlando, Florida in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from tomorrow. I'll be there 2 weeks from today setting up. But Kirsten and I go way back. We went to high school, the same high school. She was several years younger, and I think she'll want me to say many years younger, but so that's for you, Kirsten. But she actually was a bartender at Cook's Duck Inn. And Kirsten, tell me if I'm wrong with that, but in this tiny, tiny little town of about 412 people, I think. And it's just funny how over years and years and years and years and years go by, and then all of a sudden you're back together in some shape or form. And that's one of the beautiful things about what we do in the world of sales is, man, you just never know when you're going to run into people that you. I had lunch today. I posted a picture an hour or so ago with a buddy of mine that went to high school with. He's a couple of years older than I. And what year? 1982. Kirsten, man, you remember all that. She probably overserved me. That's why I don't remember the year. But I met up with a guy today that we went to high school together, and he's down here in Naples. We went and had some lunch. We actually might do a little business together, but that's secondary to the fact that, it's just, yeah, it's a big old wonderful world, is it not?
Yeah, I mean I run. Well, one of the cool things about social media is that I'm friends with people from years and years ago that I had lost touch with, or what have you. People I've gone to high school with, people that lived in different neighborhoods that I was living in at certain times, and so yeah. So one of the cool things about social media, of course, is that we get to reconnect a lot of times with. In your instance with your friend Kirsten, right? And so yeah, that's and sales is really that same thing, right? It's about how to make that connection is really what we've been talking about. So
exactly. Okay, what she said, wait, 84, and you're not that much older than me. Well, okay, I was trying to be nice, Kirsten, but yeah, it is though. It's, and the other thing about social media. And there's different opinions. A lot of people love it. We happen to be obviously two people that are pretty involved on a day-to-day basis and have bought in and love it. Some people don't. But the one thing that that I've found is like you met Wes, my producer, director, buddy, brother, friend, pal, pre-show, and we got to know each other going into this whole COVID shutdown of the world 2 years ago through a mastermind group that we both joined. And as funny as we knew each other for months amongst a bunch of other people. He showed you a picture, I believe, earlier, right there. Yeah. There's 5 of the 23 of us in this mastermind group that when we met up there in Cincinnati, none of us, I believe maybe Brian, the guy on the far right as we view the screen, and Michelle and Sean on the left may have met up one time or another, but basically as a group, we'd never met up prior to this evening, right, in Cincinnati. But when we met up, it was like you had a high school buddy, right, and you had lost touch for 20 years, and you finally catch up, and it was like a day hadn't even passed, right? And that's the way it was, and that's one of the beautiful things of social media is that I have made so many friends. You and I consider you a friend. I enjoy you. I enjoy what you do. We have never sat in a room together.
No.
Maybe we will someday, I hope. But even if we don't, the ability to develop those friendships and to develop those relationships, man, I tell you what, it's a game changer, right?
Absolutely, and that's really and the thing about storytelling that's critical there is that in that regard, that's part of the power of storytelling, right? You can get into people's lives in a fairly, you and I have known each other for a short period of time, relatively speaking, right? A few months on here on social media. And I travel to Florida quite a bit on business, so we'll meet, probably sooner than later, but
yes,
in person. But even if we don't, we've developed this relationship where I know a little bit about you, you know a little bit about me. And, that's really how, the story begins, so to speak, right? So several years from now, like you and Kirsten were just reminiscing about, in the 80s, that's a story, right? You can use that, both of you could use that to tell a story about something that's relative to one or the other, right? And could be in sales, it could be anything, right? Because your friendship, but in sales, it would be relative to what you're selling, right? So, right. Hey, I met Kirsten back in 1982, and she was a bartender, and with this and that, and by virtue of that, we met Joe, and Joe ended up doing some business with me, and then we met Mary, and then Mary, then Mary did some business with Kirsten, and now you can develop this story. The other thing that's good about storytelling, or I'll call it these types of relationships, is that you start to in your story, you'll start to get. So there's 2 things about storytelling that are critical. One is you have to answer, if you're going to be a storyteller as opposed to a features and benefits salesperson, you have to know what are all the objections to your offering. You need to understand those in a critical way, and you need to craft into your story, answer every one of those objections as you're telling the story. The goal there is that at the end, there should never be an objection. There might be some stalls, right? Which is different than an objection, but people sometimes don't want to make a decision, and you could just tell them, just do it. And if they're stalling, they'll be okay, and they'll do it, right?
Right.
If they have a genuine objection, at that point, when you push them, they'll tell you what the objection is. But let me digress for a second. Is really the goal is to be able to answer all those objections in the story itself. That's piece number 1. The second piece is you want to have referrals, or you want to have testimonials built into your story as well, right? Most businesses nowadays, by virtue of the internet, by virtue of what we've been talking about, social media and Zoom meetings and StreamYard like we're on today, Facebook Live, and Teams meetings and all these kinds of ways that people can meet now, is it's very relevant to, it's a small world. I'm in a $1 billion business we sell all around North America, right? Canada, US, and Mexico. But it's a small world. There's lots of people that know each other, even though they've never met or what have you, right? So if I can tell a relevant story about how the guy at UPS is buying my product, well, the guy at FedEx, it's already, everybody knows how, demanding UPS is to do business. So if they know you're doing business with them and you mention the right name, right, or then you've got a built-in testimonial. Now there's already acceptance of your product before you even, you don't have to get here's 20 phone numbers, call these people out. They're going to call, right? Right.
Right.
And the other thing too about any kind of sales, whether it's story selling or otherwise, is people need to understand nowadays that when you and I engage, not you and I specifically, but you and whomever engage in a sales conversation, they already know about your company. They already know about you. They've already got a good idea what the pricing is, the neighborhood in which the product is priced. They already know some people that use it, right? And you need to be able to tie all those things together. Some people look at that as a disadvantage. I look at that as a great advantage. They've already done a lot of the selling for me. Right. And if I'm having a conversation with them, they're interested. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. So.
Oh, it is. And you hit on the referrals are so important. And I think a lot of people forget the importance of referrals. And I remember I really was cognizant of the importance of referrals one time when I was taking over some area up in the Northeast. And I had no idea. I mean, other parts of the country, if I knew everybody, whether I sold them or not, I knew they were there. I didn't know that much about that area. And I asked a customer in New York State, I say, if you could help me, God, it'd be awesome, right? Because I've got this new area up here and I really don't know anybody. And he goes, he brings out, he starts writing down 4 or 5 people's names.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking this is awesome. But he goes, hold on. And he starts dialing the phone.
Yeah.
And he calls these people and say, I'm sitting here with Randy right now. He's taken great care of us for the last 12 years or whatever the time is. And it's like, it's good that I'm relatively quick on my feet because he hands me the phone. Hey, Bill. Hi, this is Randy. I had no idea we're going to do this, right? But the point of all that is, man, you just can't beat that with a 55-foot long 2x4, right? That referral, that recommendation, because the difference is this guy, whether saying it or not, I have dealt with this guy and his company for 12 years. You need to talk to them. That's right. All. If not saying it's a guarantee, but if you can't finish that one out, you probably better work on your game, right?
Yeah, when they hand you the phone in that instance, basically you should just say to the guy, "How many do you want?"
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's X dollars for a half a truck, or I can give you a really super truckload deal today. Which way would you like to go, my friend? Right?
Yeah. How many do you want?
Yeah, it's good stuff though, but it's fun. So, but I love you started Invisible. Tell me if I got this. Visible Storytelling by Scott, right? A Facebook group. I love what you do. 3 times a week are you posting on there now with some video?
I am.
I'll tell you what. I watch every one, and I get something out of every one. And I'd recommend anybody watching now or on replay, follow Scott. What you talk about, you bring a down to earth, true. Here's how this whole thing works. Idea about storytelling, and I love it. So kudos to what you do on that. It's very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good stuff because I think what I love to see that you're doing with that is what we've talked about for the last 25 minutes or so is you talk about telling the story as opposed to just people get real tired you know, if we're all been doing this for a while, and you and I have both been doing this for a long time, I'm as good as anybody. You're as good as anybody. I can give you all the dog and pony stuff, right? I can give you all the features and benefits. I can spin all the reasons why any particular product of mine, all these little technical things, how I'm better and how I do this better and how we're great and how somebody else is not. I can do that stuff all day long. But that's really, at the end of the day, not what's going to get that sale, right?
Right.
And I think you do a great job of explaining to folks how you build that story. And it's the invisible story. And I love the title because you're telling a story without telling a story, if that makes sense. You're not you're just having a conversation with a customer.
Absolutely. That's the goal. The goal is to make it seamless, right? So,
right.
And my Invisible Story Selling Group is a segue into hopefully, going off on my own here sooner than later, right? So I currently work a corporate job. It's a very good company. They treat me very well. As you and I have traded some stories about, we're both road warriors. I'm on the road. I'm flying somewhere between 140 and 150,000 miles a year. I'm in a hotel. Last year, 2020 and 2021, both off years because of the pandemic, right? And last year I was still in a hotel 142 nights. So, I'm on the road all the time, and nothing wrong with that, but I'd really like to be on the road for myself all the time, right? So I'm looking to segue into my own business. I don't know when that will exactly happen, but the start of it is the Invisible Story Selling Group, and trying to get, putting some of my content out there. I'm currently working on some products that will go with the Invisible Story Selling Group. And, of course, the videos is free content, and, I'll have some paid content after that. And then I'm looking to go, to larger, you already mentioned a mastermind that you're involved in, it'll be something in that type of scale, a higher level. One of the things I've found is that, I don't really have an interest in I'd rather, if I'm going to write ebooks or something like that, I'll give them away to people. I'm not going to sell them for $17 or $7 or whatever the number is, right? Everybody's offering always ends with a 7, as a marketing, as a piece of marketing genius, right? So, because everybody got hip to the 1999 thing. So, $17 sounds better than 1999, but high ticket sales. I sell a high ticket product today. I do sales over the phone all the time. I do a lot of sales in person as well, but I sell this product over the phone. The cheapest product that I sell today is $116,000. So, there's 116. The next one is 123. I only sell 3 products basically. And then this one other vehicle that I sell is about 137,000, something like that. So I sell them over the phone all the time, and it's by virtue of learning or perfecting that invisible story selling, right? And how to kind of mold in what we've just been talking about, right? Where get rid of the objections in the story, and then and also give referrals or testimonials in the story as well. And then at the end, people, they've never met me. I'll send them an invoice. It's actually through a third party because I work for a manufacturer, right? So we don't invoice direct. A distributor, a dealer invoices the truck. And these people they'll wire, this money, and a lot of times they're buying more than one, right? If they buy 10, they just spent, $1.2 million with me, they'll wire that money to the dealer and we ship them the vehicle. So, anyway, not the point to that I want to sell trucks to anybody after, once I retire from this, but I want to have high level, higher priced, things that people have to make an investment in that make sure that they're in the game, right? I'm actually reading a book right now where the guy talks about get rid of people that are payers. Only do business with people who are buyers, right? Buyers, they do their homework. They know what the value is in, if they spend $25,000 on a mastermind, they know what the value is of that mastermind. Yes, I had to spend $25,000 up front, whatever the number is, 10, 20, 50. Joe Polish, the famous marketing guy, he has his Genius Network. The cheapest mastermind he does is 25 grand for a year. And then he has one, I think it's 100. He has another one, it's 250. There's a reason why people, and there's a waiting list in every one of these to get in, right? There's a reason why people spend 100 grand or $250,000 with Joe Polish, because they know they're going to get $250,000 worth of result from that. You know what I mean? So, so that's the critical piece of storytelling, is that you have to be able to connect with people in a way that if you can't be sitting in front of them, physically, that you can still make these sales, virtually, or as you already mentioned, was the critical piece. If they don't trust you, if for whatever reason, which is actually, let me digress for 1 second and say this about storytelling. Never make up a story. Or if you do, tell people, I'm making this up. As an example, here's what could happen. Make sure people understand, I'm making this story up. Or make sure they understand this is a real story. Maybe the names have been changed to protect the innocent or guilty, as it were, right? But always make sure you're telling the truth, because the minute that somebody sniffs a lie, and everybody can, people can tell a lie from a mile away nowadays, right? And the minute that you tell them something that's not true or that's sketchy or whatever, poof, they're gone, right? Yep. So, that's a critical piece to the storytelling gig, I'll call it, right? So.
Yep. Awesome. Good stuff. So my brother Wes loves to throw this hashtag up that I always forget when we get towards the end of the show. Should ask questions. What did we miss today that Scott Miller would like to share with as we try to build some wins together?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that are critical to any kind of sales. Obviously, I'm out here promoting invisible story selling, but even if you're not using that concept, or you say, hey, that's a concept that wouldn't really work for me, but I think there's a few things in sales that are absolutely critical, no matter how you go to market. The one is, you got to get good at blocking and tackling, right? You hear this in football and sports, right? If you're on a football team and everybody marches out onto the field, and 6 of the guys face to that end zone and 5 of them face to the other end zone, and you go hike and throw the ball into the stands, you're never going to get anywhere. You're just not going to get anywhere, right? So, you have to be able to do the blocking and tackling. That's it's uber critical in sales, right? Part of that is what I call pound the rock. We've all heard this story, how do you break a giant boulder in half? Well, you got to sit there and pound on it for maybe days before the rock will split open, right? But eventually it will. You're making progress that you can't see when you're pounding the rock, when you're doing the basics, right? And you got to get good at those basics, the blocking and tackling. You have to understand what they are in your business or your offering, and you have to get an expert at that, at the little things. If you can do the little things right, those will add up to wins. They absolutely will. It's, you're in the building trade, right? If you start off by putting the roof on instead of laying the foundation, or in the pole buildings, right? If you try to, take a rope and hang the roof from a tree first, and then you put the poles up, it's not going to work. You're not going to have a building. It's going to fall down, or the wind's going to come along and blow the roof away while you're trying to put the poles underneath it or whatever. You can't do that process backwards. You have to put this foundation down. You got to put the poles in the ground. You got to put the supports, whatever it is. Then you got to put like the support for the roof. Then you put the roof, it's a process, right? Sales is exactly like that. You can't skip those steps, right? The other thing is in sales that's super important, really important in storytelling as well. Focus on what you can control, right? I have no control, as much as I can guide people, or as much as I can influence them one way or the other, there's certain things that are out of my control. Somebody may sit down in front of me and look at me and go, I don't like guys that wear glasses and have short hair. I'm using a silly example, but if that's the case, I'm toast. I can have a nice conversation with them, but they're not going to buy anything from me. It's just that simple, right? So focus on what I can control, on what you can control, and then understand that the only thing that you can control is you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the only thing that I can control. I can't control how other people react to me. I can't control, there's very few things that are in my exact control outside of me. Everything inside of me is in my control, right? So that's a critical piece. It's important to know not only what you want, not only what your goals are, but it's important to also know what you don't want. That's just as important, and you should have a list of those things. I don't want to do business with this kind of company, that type of person. I don't mean people specifically. I mean, if you find somebody who's unethical, I will not do business with them. I don't care if they came to my house with an armored truck and dropped the money on my front porch and said, please deliver the vehicle to me. I would not do business with them. Simple, period. No questions about it. So as an example, right? It's important to know, hey, these are the folks that I'm interested in doing business with. These are the people that I'm interested in helping. And then these are the ones that I don't want anything to do with. You know what I mean? And it's critical to cut the rope from those people, like cut them off, get rid of them. Like, I used to work for a division of GE Capital, right? And Jack Welch was the CEO of GE at the time. And he was famous for, at the end of the year, get rid of 20%. 20% of the Deadwood employees, 20% of your Deadwood customers. Like the bottom 20%, get rid of them, no matter what the reason. Now, I'm not sure I subscribe to that, but I do like the concept of, if you call up a customer and every time you call them up, they scream and yell at you, they complain about everything, they're trying to get a discount on the Pro. If you don't give me a discount, I'm going to tell people, what an awful company you are, blah, blah, blah. Get rid of those people. Don't do business with them. It's just that simple. It's not, you'll spend way more time trying to fix those people's attitude that you could get 10 more customers in the meantime while you're trying to make them happy, right? It's just not worth it. So one of the other things, this sounds silly, but it's a pet peeve of mine, is never be late. Never be late. Always be on time, right? And, in the case of some famous sports coaches, especially, I think of Tom Coughlin from the Giants, who had a big blowout with Michael Strahan when he first became coach, because he set all the clocks in the building 5 minutes. He told them they had to be 15 minutes early. And then he set all the clocks 5 minutes, ahead. So even if you were on time, you were late in his mind, right? Mm-hmm. There'd be a penalty for doing that, right? Mm-hmm. And, these guys they're grown men. They make a lot of money. They got giant egos. In the end, when they worked that out, and Michael Strahan later on said he saw the wisdom behind that, then all of a sudden they won a couple of Super Bowls. You know what I mean? So, never be late. And then the last thing I would say is, people need to understand, this kind of hit me last week when this Bob Proctor passed away. He used to use this thing. I'll show you. I have one here, the hourglass, right? Mm-hmm. So the hourglass is running. Everything in the bottom of the hourglass is the past. It's history. There's nothing you can do about it. Yes, you can turn the hourglass back over, right? But that's not really what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is when the sand runs out and it's over for you, then it's over. And you don't know what day that is. Right. Could be tomorrow. I could walk out of the house and get hit by a bus. I have no idea. I could, next week be on a plane and the plane crashes, or you never know what day is your day, right? And so the importance of the hourglass is to be cognizant of that time is running out of the glass, and that to make the most of, not just in sales, we're talking about business, but in everything in your life, love your family, love your neighbors, help other people, be responsible to yourself and to other people. Be the best version of yourself, right? I've really focused in on that this year for 2022. I'm making some major changes in my life, and and I'm not a young pup anymore, right? So, but I feel excited. It's got this juice flowing through me right now that's unbelievable. Like I feel really, really excited for 2022. And you talk to some people, which I try to stay away from these people, but you talk to some people and they're like, oh, 2020 was bad. 2021 was even worse. And 2022, who knows what, the Earth's going to spin off its axis and fly out to outer space or something, which of course, if it does, we're all on the same planet. So we're all going for that ride.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I got off on a little bit of a
no, but you're 100% right. You control your own destiny in a large 100%. You control your attitude, your vision, and I think you're right. We have to just get away from that negative stuff. I still hear it like you do from day to day. I don't know if it's going to be any better. It's going to be. I don't have time for you. I'm sorry. I mean, exactly. I just don't. I'm living a life of we're gonna do the best we can do, and we're gonna be good. We're gonna make it good because this is what we're gonna do. And speaking of your coach, I had a football coach that used to always do the 10 minutes early is late. So if a guy would show up 10 minutes early, he'd still go run. Yeah. We said, well, coach, I'm 10 minutes early. He says, 10 minutes early is late. If you really care, you'd have been here 20 minutes early. Padded up. Why are you still cinching your pads up with your jersey laying on the ground? You should have been ready to go. I want to see guys ready to go. I want to see guys ready to go hit people like 20 minutes ago. I want you skipping class darn near, right, to get to the football field so we can go hit somebody, because that's how fired up I want you to be. And and I think we take that into all aspects of our life, and you'll be more successful, and it's just a more fun, exciting trip, right? Because it is a big trip, right? Life's a big trip. So
it's a big trip, and you never know when the trip's going to end. So you may as well make the most of it every single day.
You got it, buddy. You got it.
So
awesome. Well, Scott, listen, I appreciate your time. You've given us a good 50 minutes of great stuff, and I appreciate it, my friend, more than you know. Keep bringing that invisible storytelling to the world, and whatever else you do. I can't wait. I literally every day when I see your new story pop up, I'm excited to listen to what you have to say. So never stop doing what you do, my man.
Well, I appreciate your support, and it's great to be a guest on your show here. I really appreciate that opportunity as well, and hopefully I'll have a show somewhere in the future, and I can return the favor. So
I would love
really
to.
Appreciate you. I appreciate your support, and thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome, buddy. You're welcome, buddy. And when you get to Florida, let me know.
I'll look you up for sure.
Yeah, we'll get together. I look forward to that. All right, Scott, I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers, brother.
See you.
There you go, folks. Scott Miller. Check him out. If you haven't followed him on Facebook, LinkedIn, I think he's on LinkedIn too. He may be other places. Yep, Scott's everywhere. He's omnipresent. But follow him. You're going to love what he brings to the table. I highly recommend you check him out and follow him. So well, thank you, Kirsten. I appreciate that. So as we've mentioned a little bit, we are on a crazy week this week. This is the first of 3 this week. Then we'll be back to a fair amount of normalcy, if you will, for a while, because I've got a lot of travel to come up the next couple of months at least. A lot of distributor shows and national shows and shows here, shows there, shows everywhere. But doing what I do, the old hashtag Road Warrior Randy stuff, which I love. But this week, Wednesday, we got Larry Levine. Larry is the real deal, buddy. A best-selling author of Selling from the Heart. He has a podcast under the same name, and we are going to chat at length about that exact subject of selling from the heart. And you're going to love Larry. He's the real deal. That's going to be a good time. Looking forward to that. And then Friday, we've got back to the industry, if you will, a little bit, the industry that I'm from, Heidi Ellsworth with Roofers Coffee Shop. Heidi They run a podcast and a whole lot of other social media. They're at every show that has to do with roofing. They just, man, they just bring the heat when it comes to roofing. And I was blessed to be on her show, podcast, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I don't know. Time flies ago, and she's going to return the favor to be on Building Winds Live on Friday, and we're going to chat about the roofing industry. And that's you're gonna love Heidi. She's her and I first met. We'll clarify this Friday, but I think in Charlotte, dinner one evening together and had a great meal with some fellow industry friends, and you're going to enjoy Heidi. So that will be this week, so Wednesday and Friday. So don't miss it. And remember, you got to just seize the day, live it, love it, own it. And as I always say, make today your best day ever. Until tomorrow. That's it, folks. Cheers. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.